I'm D-Mate from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me is Kayla Fonte, and together we're Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
Yeah, really good. Hasn't been that long in between drinks for us. I think we spoke
Mhm.
about 5 days ago. Another sell high, buy low show, and we got another one coming up. We're also recording another show tonight as well, our ads and drops for the next week. So how did you go in the last week anyway?
I did pretty solid. I think I could have done better, but I'll take it. It's been a bit of a weird week.
It has been, yeah, not many games played, and I think we're in store for a very similar week as well. So, yeah, interesting streaming week. 2 days that don't have games at all, so that'll be quite difficult to navigate. But let's get into our buy lows and sell highs.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go straight into our most traded players. So over the last 24 hours, most traded player is Larry Markkinen. Our last show, it was Larry Markkinen, so very consistent theme here. Kevin Durant, back from injury, 3 games back from injury, I believe, and he's already being traded quite quickly. So that is interesting. Dennis Schroeder, a new Golden State Warrior, so we'll see how that plays out. For us, he's a very solid hold right now. We'll see how things do play out. He's mooted to be starting alongside of Steph, so that's good for his value. But yeah, interesting to see that he's the number 3 most traded player in the last 24 hours. Joel Embiid, we spoke about him on the last show. Is he a sell high? Is he a buy low? We're not too sure. In most situations, we probably want to avoid him. But yeah, a lot of trades going down at this stage. Your boyfriend, number 5, Dyson Daniels.
This is surprising to me, but I haven't really seen him being traded around in any of my leagues. But if anyone wanted to trade him to me, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think maybe the steal rates come down a little bit, but he's still really
Mhm.
solid, and you just know that he can go off at any stage as well. Jordan Poole, one of my guys, he has cooled off, and he will be on our buy lows list very shortly, so we'll go through that. Another one on our buy lows list, bit of a consistent theme here, is Tyrese Maxey. Miles Turner, he's been really consistent, really solid, but he's for some reason in the top 10. So number 8 of most traded players. James Harden, another guy on our buy low list at this stage. He was on our sell highs list this time last week. So how things quickly change in fantasy. And finally, we round out the top 10 with your guy, RJ Barrett. We talked about him as a sell high last week, and guess what? He's on our list again as a sell high. He's just really dominating for the Raptors right now.
Yep.
But let's get into our buy low list, starting with Freddie VanVleet, and we'll take you through one by one, but that's our quick list. Let's get straight into Freddie VanVleet. Now, over the last 2 weeks in 9cat, and again, thank you to Hashtag Basketball. Go check him out at hashtagbasketball.com. But over the last fortnight, Fred VanVleet, only 4 games, but the 300th ranked player in 9cat, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Looking at the season as a whole, he's been fairly disappointing, but over the past 2 weeks, it's just been particularly rough and one of the biggest lowest points for him. And even looking at the points leagues ranking too, there's a bit of a disparity there. Obviously, it's still not great from someone of his caliber, but still, it really comes down to the shooting splits. Under 30%. That's really rough. That will come back up for sure. And even the free throw percentage too. He's not a 50% kind of guy. So that'll come back up. And it's also low volume too.
It is low volume on free throws, and we expect that above 80%. But you look at the steals and the blocks, and yeah, the blocks, half a block a game. That's pretty good for a guard. But the steals, you expect him to be above 1 for someone of his caliber, as you were saying. The points, Houston are really struggling for a really dominant scorer right now. So he really needs to step up. So I think that he is, and we've talked about him as a buy low very often, but he's back on the list as a buy low. So I think there's enough there for us to be confident that he will bounce back. Next one on our list, his teammate, Alperen Şengün.
Yeah, just looking at the numbers here, the main thing that jumps out is the blocks. He's a guy who averages at least 1 per game. So the fact that he's had 0 over the past 5 games is very, very disappointing. And that's not going to stick either.
It won't stick. His shooting splits have been okay. Usually he hurts you a little bit from the free throw line. The points are slightly down. The rebounds are down by, I think, 1 rebound per game over the last 5 games. So there is definitely room for improvement, but it's definitely the block rate there that's really disappointing. Next one here, Larry Markkinen. We spoke about him already. Now, this is an interesting one. Do we want to buy low on a guy? And I'm actually not looking to trade for him at all because I've spoken about Utah Jazz and their late season shenanigans. I'll use that term again, but we know that they're in tank mode. So are they going to risk a guy that he can't be traded anyway? Or are they going to risk a guy and playing him through to the end of the season? I just don't think so. So it's buy low, but it's buy low, but buy very low because you just don't want to be offering too much for Larry Markkinen right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. He's not someone who I would be trading for, unless I got him at a good discount. He's also someone who I'm looking to trade away in the leagues that I have him. Not right now because he's a buy low, so I want to try and get a little bit more of a sell high, which is
Mhm.
going to be a little bit harder to do. But looking at the stats here, the points are really down. That's the most glaring thing. Even the rebounds and no stocks. He's usually a guy who can get you a couple. Nothing mind blowing, but the fact that he has zero is really disappointing.
Yeah, it's the points, it's the field goal percentage. He is a great buy low for a roto situation, but head to head, I'm probably going to avoid at this stage. But I still think he can be a buy low in certain situations, depending on how much you give away. Now, just looking at some examples of some trades in the last 24 hours for Larry Markkinen, just for those that are going to get a little bit spicy and do want to trade for him. Larry Markkinen for Joel Embiid. Now, that's a really interesting one. Probably two guys that I want to avoid in trades. Which way are you going?
I'm probably gonna go Laurie.
Yeah, interesting
Yeah.
there. Jeremy Grant, I think another situation with the Portland Trailblazers, they're going to be resting him. We've seen over the last 3-4 seasons, even before he joined the Trailblazers, he will be resting down the stretch. Resting, I put inverted commas. But Larry or Jeremy Grant?
I would say Laurie as well. I'm not a big
Yeah,
fan of Jeremy Grant.
yeah. Austin Reeves, this is an interesting one here. Reeves or Marketing?
I'm still kind of leaning Laurie, to be honest with you. How about you?
It's an interesting. Yeah, I probably
It's a
would
little bit
go
tricky.
Markkinen. I think the
Yeah.
ceiling is a little bit higher. Reeves he's solid, but he's not been spectacular. Started off the season really strongly, but yeah, he's really middled out to someone who's probably just inside the top 100, and they're the type of guys
Mhm.
that I think are quite disposable or dispensable. Um, Julius Randle or Larry Markkinen?
I'd actually probably do Randall.
Randall. I like
Yeah.
this one. Jared Allen. I'm taking Jared Allen over
Yeah.
Markkinen here. Miles
Any day.
Turner. I probably would take Miles Turner over Markkinen as well.
Same.
Josh Hart on current form absolutely would be taking Lowry Markkinen over Larry
Yeah.
Markkinen, but who knows with the Knicks? Perhaps they do add someone else. But Josh Hart, fantastic season so far.
Mhm.
Herb Jones. This is an interesting one. I don't know if I can get behind the Herb Jones trade.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that either. I'd rather stick with Laurie.
Yep. And Tyus Jones. That's yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
Um,
Laurie all the way.
Yeah, and Emmanuel Quickly, that's an interesting one just because Quickly is still injured, no clear timetable to return, but we're
Mhm.
both very high on him coming into this season. So you're going to go Quickly, who may finish the season strongly, or Markkinen, who may actually taper away.
See, with this one too, I'm also thinking that the Raptors could have some shenanigans down the stretch, especially as they're tanking. So it could
Thank you
be a
for using my
similar
term as well.
situation.
Yeah, I
I
like
love
that
it. I
term.
love that term. Um, I think it would probably be easier to trade Laurie. So would lean with him and I would try to get someone else besides Quickly just because of the injury concerns.
Yeah,
Even though I do love Quickly.
yeah, I agree there. So some interesting trades there over the last 24 hours. Now, getting back to our buy lows, Jason Tatum, 97th over the last 2 weeks. Yes, just 4 games, but 42% from the field, practically zero defensive stats, and slightly less on the points as well and on the three-pointers. So, yeah, just a little bit down. Boston don't really need to exert themselves. So we have seen, even overnight, we saw Al Horford just rest. It wasn't even a back-to-back. And I think we saw Jason Tatum rest a game as well. We may be seeing a lot more of this from the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I think so. Even looking at the points leagues ranking here, there hasn't really been a big difference, and that really just comes down to the percentages, like field goal. Traditionally, guys like Jason Tatum, high scorers, they're going to have the most value, so that's why there hasn't really been a big difference here. Yes, the points are down a little bit, but they're still good enough to warrant that top 15 ranking.
Do you think Porzingis coming back has impacted Tatum?
I think it has a little bit. That's a really stacked lineup, so I think in a way it affects everyone. But I don't think it's a major impact.
Yeah. So I still think it's a buy low for Tatum. Brook Lopez, and a lot of people know that I'm not massive on Brook Lopez. I wasn't coming into this season. I think he was someone on the decline, but he's actually defied all expectations, or my expectations anyway. 50th on the season and 9 cat, but in the last fortnight, 209th. And that's really down to, well, it's really low points. We don't expect huge points, but a significant decrease in blocks. And that's where a lot of his 9 cat value comes from.
Oh, definitely. Even looking at the percentages too, like 34%. Yes, that's on low volume, but still, like it's enough to really hurt you. Yeah, the blocks are down, I think, by almost one ish on the season. And yeah, he's performed a lot better than a lot of us expected. And he was even a sell high at some points for us. So I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he'll be solid. And if you need those blocks, go and acquire him now. Next one here, James Harden. Now, he was on our sell high list in the matter of 3 games. He's now turned it around. He's now on our buy low list. So, welcome, James Harden. But look at the field goal percentage, 33% over the last 3 games, 5.7 turnovers. We often talk about this. I tend to disregard turnovers, but that does play an impact on the 9 cat rank. But over the last fortnight, 326th. So, that's the last 3 games, but 27th on the season. Much higher when you punt turnovers, of course. He's close to a first round guy.
Yeah, and it even comes down to like the points and assists too, like 14.3 points per game and 5.3 assists. We expect those numbers to be a lot higher. So that's also contributing to that low ranking.
Yeah, a couple of blowouts. I know the Clippers
Mhm.
have been a little bit disappointing as of late, but yeah, huge bounce back coming for James Harden. Jordan Poole, as we spoke about earlier, he's had a pretty good season so far, but in the last fortnight, 170th in 9cat, 108th in points leagues.
Yeah, and it's just a field goal percentage, like that bright red right there, even the turnovers too. His points are also slightly down. He's usually like a 20 point per game kind of guy. And I think he's even cooled off in the threes as well.
Not to mention the free throws. Usually it's around
Yep.
90%, but just under 80%, so 79.9% on 4.2 attempts per game over the last 6 games. Yeah, that's unlike Jordan Poole. So I think he's got a lot of room for improvement there. But yeah, again, with the late season shenanigans, are we going to see it from the Wizards, or are they going to play him at the end of the season like they did at the end of last season?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he receives a little bit less minutes just because they have so much young talent on that team. I wouldn't be surprised if they want to, give them all the runtime.
Yeah, I would just be mindful. He's still a young guy, but yeah, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Bub's still there. A lot of young guys they want to
Mhm.
just have a look at before the next season as well. All right, next guy here, Devin Vassell. I know he's not really one of your favorites, but I still think he's got a lot of room for improvement. Still coming off the bench for the Spurs. In the last game, he put up a stinker, but I think that's just opened up the window for a buy low opportunity.
I think so too, especially when you're looking at how he performed last season and he was really solid. It just really comes down to that injury and continuing to ramp up. So I think he will start turning things around. But yeah, like you said, I'm just not the biggest fan of him.
Yeah, and I think just looking at those shooting splits, he's got a lot of room for improvement there. The steals are
Mhm.
still fine, but yeah, the minutes need to come up, the points need to come up, everything can be improved. So yeah, big buy low for me. Next one, Tyrese Maxey. You look at the points leagues in the last fortnight, pretty solid, pretty consistent with what he's done throughout the season. But when it comes to 9cat, he comes down to the field goal percentage.
Yeah, exactly. And even the turnovers too, that plays a little bit of a factor as well. But most people punt turnovers anyway, so it's not the biggest deal.
Yeah, and of course with Joel Embiid and ongoing issues, we're not sure with the latest injury whether that's going to be a one-game um, absence or if it's going to be a multi-game absence. We'll hopefully find out later today. He will miss today's game for the 76ers, but I think this opens up a little bit more opportunity for Maxi to take on more usage. Next one. Jaden Ivey now took us through this one because he's not one of my favorites, but he is more suited to points leagues.
Yeah, definitely. He's not one of my favorites either, but I still think he can perform a lot better than this. And he was having those periods of really good value earlier in the season. So I think he will bounce back. I don't think he's going to be the most outstanding player, but you still expect a lot more from like 11.3 points. The field goal and free throw percentage have been not the best. He's never been a really good free throw percentage guy, but the field goal should certainly come up. Even the defensive impact too just hasn't really been there. There's also a lot of mouths to feed on the Pistons too, so I think that also plays a role. But I expect him to start improving a little bit over some time, but definitely buy low right now.
Yeah, and Tobias Harris is going to miss today's game. Not sure if he's going to miss longer than that, so that probably opens up a bit more usage for Jaden Ivey. And as we've seen in, or particularly last season, they're going to play a lot of Ivy down the stretch as well. He's a young guy. I think he's probably more suited to be a point guard. Obviously, that's not going to happen with Cade Cunningham still there. But yeah, he's got a lot of upside. So buy low, but probably not suited to category leagues or 12-team category leagues, probably more suited to deeper leagues and cats. But points leagues, absolutely buy low here.
Yeah.
Now, his teammate, Jalen Duran, what do we make of his season so far?
Overall, it's just been a really, really rough season. I want to say that the numbers are going to improve. Like the rebounds last week have been a little bit underwhelming. The blocks and steals have looked okay, which is good. But the points, I mean, he's a double-double threat for me, but he hasn't really been fantastic. Even the free throw percentage too is going to drag you down, right?
Yeah, and the minutes, 23.4 minutes per
Mhm.
game of the last 3 games. I don't think he's been in foul trouble in a lot of those games as well. And we've seen that across the season. Just, yeah, he's not playing those big minutes that we would have liked. The blocks are actually quite good for the time that he's playing. The steals are really good over the last 3 games, but it's the points and it's the rebounds. Like you said, he should be a double-double threat, but he's not threatening that at the moment. So extremely disappointing, but I think he can turn it around. He's a young guy. Yeah, he can't get much worse than this, to be honest. And he has been dropped in a few of the leagues that I'm currently playing in. So that's surprising as well. Now, let's get to our sell highs. A bit more of less gloom and doom and a little bit more happy days. But starting off, Tyler Hero, what a season he's had. And I think it will continue, but will it continue as well as it has up to this point?
I don't know about this point, but I think that he's going to maintain similar value. I mean, overall, he's just looked really good this season, and he's really been outperforming a lot of expectations. I think his ADP was in like the 70-ish, like 80 range, which is surprising to me. I've always been a fan of his game, even with the injury concerns and things like that. I mean, he's that clear second option. And with Jimmy Butler kind of struggling a little bit, like last season and even a little bit this season as well, with staying on the court and things like that, Hero's just been the guy to step up, and the points have looked fantastic. The efficiency, the threes. I'm loving his game right now.
Yeah, he actually looks like the first option, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I think he's gone ahead of Jimmy Butler. He's gone ahead of Bam Adebayo. 25th on the season in 9-cat, 42nd on the season in points leagues. But over the last 2 weeks in points leagues, 30th as well. So he's just really he's playing out of his skin at the moment. I think it can continue, but yeah, I don't know. His shooting splits are unbelievable. You don't expect him to shoot 53% as he has over the last 2 weeks. I think that comes down a little bit. He's never going to be a defensive stats guy, and that's pretty consistent over his entire career. But yeah, 53.7% on high usage as well. So 16.4
Mhm.
attempts from the field. Yeah, that's a lot for Tyler Hero, but some of these highlights are pretty insane. He's looking stronger, he's looking focused, and yeah, he's staying healthy, which is really important for him.
Oh, definitely. And it also like there's also that trade that could potentially happen with Jimmy Butler too. That could really, really help his value. So it'll be interesting to watch out if anything happens.
Absolutely. No, some great highlights there of Tyler Hero. But for us,
Mhm.
sell high. Next guy here, Ayo Dosunmu. Now, waiver wire guy. He's been putting
Mhm.
up some fantastic numbers over the last, let's say, a month, but particularly over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's looked fantastic. It has been a little bit surprising considering just the depth that the Bulls have, especially with Lonzo Ball, adding Josh Giddey. So it's been a little bit surprising. I don't think this is sustainable at all, but I still think like throughout the season he's going to have those pockets of good value here and there. And right now, I think he's at the height of it.
Yeah, look at those stats again. Thank you to hashtag basketball, but he's practically green across the board. So field goal percent, 63.5% on 10.4 attempts over the last 5 games. That's crazy good. I know he's a pretty efficient guy, but not this efficient. 100% on 1.8 attempts per game from the free throw line. 2.4 threes is also something that's quite abnormal for him, pretty atypical, and he's really stepped it up in terms of his point scoring ability as well, which it's just been super impressive from him. And again, I just don't see it continuing on. Points leagues, not as impressive. Obviously, that efficiency doesn't translate into as much value, but still 38th over the last fortnight in points leagues is superb. But for us, sell high.
Mhm.
Jakob, now I think he's been on our sell high list often this season, but he continues to defy expectation.
Yeah, he just looked really good, and I think a lot of that comes down to just the amount of injuries that the Raptors have right now. So they're depending on him a lot more on both ends of the court. Yeah, perfect sell high opportunity, especially with Barnes is out, Quickly's out. But I think Quickly is closer to returning than Scotty is, with him out several weeks.
Yeah, he's one of the better passing big men. So 4.3 assists per game is really good, but 92.9% from the free throw line for Jakob. You more expect that to be 52.9, but yeah, Jakob's turning into an elite shooter this season. Solid on the rebounds. That could probably even come up, to be honest. 8.3 rebounds per game over the last fortnight. 1.3 steals is really good, and 1.3 blocks. Hey, we come to expect that from Jakob over his career. So 13th in 9K over the last fortnight, 40th on the season, but that's just been a tremendous season so far. But for us, I think it is a sell high. And again, with Raptors not really in contention for playoff berth this season, I think that he's a huge sell high guy right now. Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, this one I could see sticking, but probably not as high as 12th on the season.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna maintain like top 15 value for sure. I could see him ending with more like maybe like third-ish round value, I think is more appropriate for him. The biggest thing here is just the stocks, which have just looked fantastic. And he's been maintaining that for a little while now, but I think he's gonna cool off just a little bit, especially like in the
Yeah.
steals.
Yeah, the steals, 2.0 steals per game of the last six
Mhm.
is pretty cool. 1.5 blocks, you come to expect that from Jaren Jackson Jr. 20.7 points per game over the last fortnight as well. Very, very impressive. 16th in 9Cat, 27th in points leagues over the last fortnight. But yeah, pretty consistent with the entire season. But for us, I still think it is a sell high.
Mhm.
Next one, Keontae George. Now, what a turnaround this has been, and it's probably been at the expense of guys like Colin Sexton. Jordan Clarkson's just come back into the team, but Keontae George has looked really impressive. He was one of our breakout guys for this season. Very slow start to the season. A lot of people saying, should we drop him? Should we drop him? We're trying to preach patience here, and he's really turned it around nicely.
Yeah, exactly. He's in his second year, so he's still learning, figure things out. The most glaring thing here is field goal percentage. He usually struggles from the field, but 50% over the past 4 games, that's looked really promising. Even the free throw percentage, he's been perfect on 3 attempts per game. That'll come down a little bit, but still, like it's really promising to see those two categories being green. And even his larger role offensively, 19 points per game, 2.5 threes. The playmaking has looked really good, even the rebounds. The only bad thing here is turnovers, and most managers don't care about that.
That's right, and a lot of his value in points leagues has been a lot better in comparison to nine cap. But he's really turned it around. He's actually been a better nine cap player because of that efficiency that you alluded to earlier.
Mhm.
I think he's a huge sell high just based on the efficiency. But again, people that were thinking of dropping him not that long ago, hopefully you were able to just hold on and be patient because, yeah, it's been a nice turnaround. He's looked more assertive on offense. He's actually bringing some of the defense as well. So just looking more confident in his game day by day. Next one's Trey Murphy. We were very big on him coming into the season. He did start the season injured. Took a few games for him to come back and then get some run under his legs, but he's looked fantastic. But of course, the Pelicans have so many injuries right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Pelicans are just relying on guys like Murphy a lot more, which makes it easier for him to become a sell high because, like, look at the stats. He's looked really good. Like, the points, the threes will definitely come down, 3 per game. And the defensive impact has been fantastic as well.
Yeah, we got Zion still out. Brandon Ingram's still out as well. DeJounte Murray's come back as well, but I think that helps Trey Murphy just find some open looks as well. But Yeah,
Mhm.
sell high just because of the guy still to come back in, and we can't bank on the fact that Brandon Ingram will be traded because who knows what happens there. But big sell high. As much as I love Trey Murphy, he's not a top 30 guy in my opinion. He's probably closer to a top 50 guy.
Mhm.
Peyton Pritchard. Now, this is an interesting one. You've mentioned him as a sell high. You don't think he can continue this form?
I think some of his stats will cool off a little bit, like the almost 5 threes per game, I think are gonna come down for sure. The points I think will decrease a little bit, even the assists. It's just because, like we had talked about before, with that stacked starting lineup for the Celtics, when there's injuries, he's obviously going to really shine. But yeah, I think he's just going to cool off just a little bit.
And he is the super streamer. And we talked
Mhm.
about Boston resting some of their guys here, there, and everywhere. I don't think Peyton Pritchard's going to rest. And when the superstars do rest, he's the guy that typically stands up and delivers. But yeah, 47th in NICAT over the last 2 weeks, 70th in points leagues. Now that's tremendous. 70th compared to 103rd in points leagues on the season. That's been very nice over the last fortnight. Next one, Andrew Wiggins. Now, he's been very consistent this season. 58th in the last fortnight in NICAT, 80th for the season. Some of those numbers, I think the steals will come down a little bit. The shooting has been really nice. Those shooting splits have been very solid for him. But it's interesting. Dennis Schroeder's now at the Warriors. Is that going to take away some of the usage from Andrew Wiggins?
I don't think it's gonna have a major impact on him. I think his minutes might come down maybe slightly, but I don't really expect anything major. I think, like here, his numbers will come down a little bit. Like I think the points and threes, definitely the steals, will come down. But overall, this season, he's looked a lot better compared to last year.
Yeah, and he's standing out where guys like Brandon Pajemski, we thought he would be one of the more breakout guys, but he's been very disappointing. Jonathan Kuminga's actually playing some nice ball at the moment, which is great to see. Um, but yeah, Andrew Wiggins has just been consistent when he has been on the court as well. He's missed a few games with injury, but yeah, relatively speaking, he's been very solid all season. Yeah, let's finish off with your guy, RJ Barrett. Again, he was on our sell high list last week. He just hit a triple double not long ago.
He did. Yeah, the points were a little bit low, but I mean, he's still leading this team. And it really just comes down to all the injuries that the Raptors have right now. He's their number one option. He's leading the team. He's looked good in multiple categories. Free throw percentage looks good. The field goal percentage has been a little bit down. But still, if you're ignoring that category, you got to look at the other ones. He's been really, really good.
Yeah, counting stats have been tremendous. Points league, you look at the disparity there in the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, 26th in points leagues, 87th in 9-cat, but on the season, 32nd ranked guy in points leagues. Standard scoring, of course, but 32nd. We knew he's a top 50 guy, but 32nd is surpassing all of our expectations. But yeah, he has had to stand up with all the injuries that the Raptors have had this season. But yeah, he's looked fantastic. He's running the point as well, and it's just bringing out a different side in RJ Barrett that I didn't think I'd ever see. Now, Kayla, that is a wrap. Now, I'll take that view just like that. But that's a wrap. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just stay tuned for the next show that we have coming up. Ads, drops, holds, and streamers.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter. You can find myself at NBA Fantasy Bible. You can follow Kayla at Kayla_Fonte. You can also find us on Blue Sky. And of course, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But until next time, thank you, Kayla. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
See ya.